let's move on to some other controversial opinions that people have. One of those people is Michael Burry. He is the famous big short investor. He shorted the market in 2006, 2007. He recognized that the housing market was going to crash, and he made a lot of money for his clients. He has been known to call out when there are bubbles and market inflation moments. He's been doing it for the past 10 years, but it seems like he's finally been right. And he just released some of his holdings as per 13D filings, and he is short Apple. He is long Bristol Myers Squibb, long Facebook, long Alphabet, Google, Discovery, but he's short Apple. So the question is, why are you shorting one of the biggest and most important technology companies in the world? Justin, what's the logic? Why do you think he's short Apple?
I think if you look at this list, it makes a little bit more sense. He is obviously, or not obviously, but if I were to guess, he is acting much more like an aggressive hedge fund, much more like these are undervalued stocks and these are overvalued stocks, and I'm going to try to take the spread. The Apple position looks like a hedge to me. It's an 18% hedge, largest company, most liquid company probably in the world. So he's using it as a put, as a hedge for a down market, and starting to buy stocks that he deems undervalued. Google, undervalued. I think we can all agree on that. Interesting about Discovery. I've heard some peepings about Discovery being undervalued. Booking Holdings. We have a very strong travel season, and some of these stocks have gotten slammed through growth stuff. And but Facebook, he obviously very undervalued, like 7-8 times EBITDA. But I mean, I hate Meta and other things, right? So I think this is used as a hedge against the whole portfolio. But maybe he hates Apple. I don't know. Apple has I'm pulling up the valuation for Apple. Apple has at $2.3 billion, $145 a share, is trading at still kind of like a 17 times EV to EBITDA multiple, still high compared to Facebook at 8.
Tom, why do you think he's shorting Apple?
I think for me, the reason obvious. I don't always agree with Michael Burry, since he's the guy who predicted like 57 out of the last 2 market crashes. However, as far as Apple, what I think the mindset is, I think he's looking at it as look, it's a mature company, and if you take away COVID spikes, pretty much it's not in the growth stage, unlike Google, for example, Justin mentioned, which has an insane trajectory. And yet it's still priced as if it's a Google level of an investment, which it's not. It's not going to come down, to $80 or $90 or nothing like that. But it's a little bit over the top if you just see it as a pure tech company in the later stages of a kind of a milk and cow stage, starting to slowly kind of decline in the growth. However, I don't know if I agree with that's his assumption. I was just kind of being devil's advocate. And I think that Apple will be the main casualty of this bear market because it's been propping up the S&P 500 so heavily. I think that long-term, Apple transitioning into services, into healthcare, into services, and abandoning the hardware and focusing more on the SaaS element of their business might actually start a new innovation cycle for Apple, which then makes these valuations quite reasonable. But let's see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give my 30-second take here. I think the fundamental problem with Apple is this device can't get that much better, this iPhone. I mean, like at some level, it's going to be hard to make it even better and better and better. And it's going to end up in the same fate almost as the iPod has. So if the question is, we can't innovate anymore on the iPhone, as soon as Apple announces to Wall Street, hey, we're just not making more iPhones, or we're releasing every 2 years versus every year, that's a significant drop of the revenue. I think the Apple did like 60 billion in last year just in iPhones. So if that's the case, they have 2 options. Number 1, shift the company's focus to a headset, which would introduce a new app store for the metaverse, which would unlock probably trillions of dollars of opportunities if the world wants to consume things on a headset for an average of a couple hours a day, which is a really hard societal shift to happen globally. Or number 2, they focus on the car. And focusing on the car is like a 2030 type of mission. It's far away, which means in short term, there's not going to be that much shareholder upside. The metaverse is also a decade away, most likely, so we're not going to see if that happens. So the question is, if there's not that much to innovate on the phone, then can they become a SaaS company, as Tom is saying, quickly? And I think he potentially thinks that people are going to be searching more and posting more pictures on Facebook versus buying more iPhones.
I think, yeah, so I mean, I've kind of agreed with you, which is why I haven't been a big Apple owner, is because my style is much more aggressive in trying to chase the next S-curve at a reasonable price. Apple's been the master at milking the existing, probably the best S-curve ever to be found in modern history, which is, to me, I think this is a platform. This is semi-SaaS, now that they take toll booths and all that stuff. But, and they surprised us coming out of the blue with like AirPods. They were able to milk AirPods out of us and Apple Watches, and that, I mean, no one could have predicted that. So I agree with Amit that maybe glasses are next. Yeah, maybe Google was a little too early with their Google Glass. But you look at if we pull up Warren Buffett's holdings. I have a Guru Focus membership here. Apple is like 43% of their holdings. They own companies. They own pieces of companies. Bank of America, American Express, Chevron, Coke. What do those all speak to you? That's moat, defensibility. We have hundreds of billions of dollars. We're just like being like, there's only a few stocks out there that we can even buy without moving. And so I think that Michael Burry is much more aggressive in saying Apple's overvalued in comparison to Facebook and Google.
So do you think the car comes next or the metaverse comes next?
Do you think cars actually happening?
No, there's no way.
They've been in talks with Hyundai, Kia. There's all these rumors. Like they're working.
How much resources it takes to like. They don't have the. I don't think they're able. Don't see it happening.
Because if there's an Apple car integrated with your iPhone and they're going to charge like 70,000 for it, and
you know how hard it is to start a car business.
I mean, yeah, it's hard, but
I mean, but also they could buy a car company without even thinking about it. They have that much cash.
They can white label a car for sure. But why would they? I think they're moving. You guys are thinking about it as if they're moving more into hardware, and I'm telling you, they're moving out of hardware into SaaS.
So, but
where there's 80% margin.
But knowing the history of Apple, their DNA is hardware, right?
Yes.
They're very mediocre.
You have to move away from it if they want to grow.
Like look at Apple Fitness, look at Apple Music. Like all this stuff are number 2, number 3 players for a reason. Their DNA is delightful experiences marrying hardware and software and platform software. It isn't like pure software. I think that they can totally get it. I think that they should just buy up Peloton and other things like that. But I don't.
That would be an opportunity at this price, by the way. Smart one. And it fits their crowd. Like their customers will pay whatever, the overpriced price of a Peloton bike.
Yeah, I think Amit's right. Glasses are next.
I think they eventually in 10 years, if Apple giving away hardware for free, like printers.
Wow, that makes sense. Yeah, and I think glasses Goldman Sachs has said it's coming out 2023, but I think the idea of spending time in the metaverse is a hard thing to wrap my head around. But
they might need a new CEO, by the way, for what I'm saying, because Tim Cook is not going to do it. He's such an operational guy. He's not going to innovate.
Oh, but we're forgetting M1 chips. Right, so that's kind of a game changer. They're gonna eat up PCs a bit.
They already are. Anybody who's buying like a performance PC wants an M1 chip.